Path of Exile 2 has been making a huge amount of updates in their early access, with their latest major update just released called Dawn of the Hunt, but also by listening to player feedback and offering even more updates nearly every week, from monster and map balance all the way to itemization and build diversity. In this video, I'll be diving into both the new content on offer with Dawn of the Hunt, as well as many of the major improvements added to the game since, based on player feedback. Thanks to Path of Exile 2 for sponsoring this video, and to learn more about the game or jump into it yourself, you can use my link down below in the pinned comment or the description to get started. Alright, so what is Path of Exile 2? Well, for those of you that are new, PoE 2 is a next-generation action RPG created by Grinding Gear Games. PoE 2 currently features 7 amazing classes, 12 coming at full release, to venture across the deadly continent of Rayclass, meeting multiple cultures while facing off against evil in many challenging forms. Path of Exile 2 is now currently out in early access and can be played on Steam, Epic Game Store, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S for $30, which includes 300 points players can spend in-game on cosmetics, stash tabs, and much more. And the game will eventually be free to play once it fully releases in 1.0. I just checked my playtime, and I currently have over 600 hours played across all classes and characters, so I know the game is great, but what is new with PoE 2 lately? Well, as I mentioned earlier, they just released their biggest update yet in Dawn of the Hunt, which is fantastic, but they've also been hard at work with lots of more recent updates to help address balance, quality of life, and endgame activities based around player feedback. So just to point out a few of the literally dozens of improvements here, we have charm slots being reworked on belts, which reliably have 1 to 3 charm slots now always, based on item level, with increased charge generation to improve your survival. Campaign monster health was also reduced by 25% to make getting through the story campaign just a bit faster, and they also adjusted movement speeds with progressive scaling as the chapters advance, so this is going to improve early game accessibility while maintaining appropriate challenge throughout the game. Minions were also adjusted, with early game summoner strength restored to 0.1.1 levels, while maintaining endgame strategic depth, and trial level requirements have also been lowered across the board, significantly reducing build experimentation costs. Speaking of which, one of the biggest pain points for players, which was deciding on your permanent Ascendancy class, has also been updated, so now players can actually respec their Ascendancy class choice, now completely for free, simply by completing a trial that would earn them the same amount of points that they have currently spec'd. Now, this is literally going to save players dozens of hours if they decided they wanted to change their Ascendancy, because the only way to do so previously was to start a completely new character. So that is huge. PoE 2's endgame experience has also been significantly improved, with unlimited boss attempts on difficulty 0 now, to help new players understand those boss mechanics better and develop their own strategies. Full minimap tracking of rare monsters is another huge update. It's going to make it much easier to complete maps now without having to constantly backtrack and search through dead ends. Atlas bookmarks are a new custom marker option with instant navigation to improve map traversal. New stash tabs now support socketable items, breach fragments, and cross-category charms. And the number of nexuses needed to be completed to attain all your Atlas passive points has been reduced, while improving visibility of them into the fog on the Atlas map. So as you can probably tell, basically every week since Dawn of the Hunt officially launched, even more new updates have been getting patched in to improve the overall gameplay experience from top to bottom, which is really great to see. Now, as I mentioned previously, there's also tons of new content as well, which is where we can dive into Dawn of the Hunt. The big winners here, of course, are the new class, which I mentioned, and the new weapon, which are both fantastic. I am still currently leveling up that new class, the Huntress. I'm about to hit Endgame, in fact, and I'm loving every single minute of it. For my Huntress build, I went with a more bleed-focused approach, which is currently obliterating both enemy packs and every single boss in the game's campaign. For skills here, I decided to use a combination of Spear Field, which immobilizes everything in place, while also proccing Bleed and Rage for more bonus damage, while my Explosive Spear ability lets me toss out multiple exploding payloads that detonate together for timed burst damage. Of course, I am using Herald of Blood to explode those bleeds for even more damage, allowing me to push through hordes of enemies even faster, and skills like Rapid Assault and Blood Hunt from the Spear to thoroughly outclass bosses as well. Plus, I've really enjoyed the new Tame Beast skill this patch, which lets you claim any rare beast that you've defeated as an actual skill gem. So far, I've collected 3 rare beasts that I really like for different situations, each with their own, unique buffs and debuffs that make my own build even stronger. Plus, it's just great to have a permanent companion by your side, and there's even, passives in the skill tree for this. So yeah, really enjoyable playthrough right now on the Huntress for me, which is the latest PoE 2 class, like I said. Of course, with how Path of Exile 2 works, you can grab that new spear weapon and use it on any other class that you want. So you could, for example, roll a ranger with the Deadeye Ascendancy, and then you could use Lightning Spear for potentially even more damage based on how that class Ascendancy works. And speaking of which, Dawn of the Hunt, as I mentioned, is introducing even more unique Ascendancy classes to the game, which give you more opportunities to specialize your build in lots of fun and powerful ways. So 3 new Ascendancies for existing classes that have been added. Those include the Smith of Katava for the Warrior class. This makes perfect sense, actually, for the Warrior, who is already a blacksmith by origin and allows for some really interesting mechanics, including empowering your weapon, summoning a copied version of your weapon to fight beside you, and even building your very own custom body armor by choosing from various Ascendancy nodes to place on it. Think, increased life, increased strength, elemental resistances, basically whatever you want. Now, for the Mercenary fans out there is the new Tactician Ascendancy for the Mercenary class. As a former Blackguard elite, the Tactician has some pretty unique Ascendancy options, like suppressing fire, for example, which causes all projectiles to pin enemies in place, while the right where we want them notable also stops enemies completely from performing actions while in combat. And the Tactician, as the name implies, is also a great option for co-op. They can, for example, place multiple banner buffs at once, and you can even give your allies a ton of bonus damage based on a portion of your own. Not to mention, you can now summon an army of arrows to completely obliterate the entire screen if you want, which looks amazing. But now witches also get their 3rd Ascendancy class in this update as well, with the introduction of the Lich Ascendancy. The Witch, as the game's primary summoner style class with the ability to summon armies of the undead, has definitely been one of my favorite classes in the game so far, but it's going to be even better now that we have the chance to go full on occult. The Lich is basically a master of chaos and curses, and you can also sacrifice a portion of your life into the Crystalline Phylactery, making that gem massively more powerful. So if you like exploding enemies with bonus curse damage and enhancing your allies with chaos magic to become a true master of the occult, then the Lich Ascendancy is going to be a great option for you. So the new class and the new Ascendancies are all amazing, but the build options in Path of Exile 2 are even more crazy now than ever, with the addition of 100 new support gems added into the mix. Support gems in Path of Exile 2 are used to modify your skills in new and interesting ways, and you can actually use multiple gems on the same skill to really amplify things. Now, obviously, this is way too many support gems to list here for the purposes of this video, but just one quick example related to the Bleed Huntress build I showcased earlier. It's called Hemocrystals, and it causes any supporting skill to consume the bleed effect, which may already be on an enemy, to create explosive blood-filled crystals, which then explode for even more bonus damage. Pretty insane as an option, especially on the Huntress, and like I said, that's just one of over 100 brand new support skill options that have been added in the Dawn of the Hunt update. So PoE 2 is really killing it when it comes to both build customization and theory crafting. But grinding gear games have even added a few new mechanics to the game for players to enjoy, including the new Asmerian Wisps system. This is basically a new encounter that you find at random. As you approach the wisp, it's going to attempt to flee from you, but it also empowers every monster that it passes along the way with new and powerful buffs, making those monsters much more difficult to defeat. As you follow the wisp, it's going to move faster if you keep up with it, or slow down if you're struggling, but if you get too far away for too long, it will disappear and you'll miss out. Eventually though, if you follow the wisp for long enough, a rare monster will get buffed by it, and defeating that rare monster grants you even more rewards. Speaking of new mechanics, unique strong boxes now spawn at random, providing even more unique challenges. These can spawn deadly traps and, of course, waves of tough enemies, which you need to defeat in order to take the loot inside. But my favorite new mechanic has to be the new Rogue Exiles. These are essentially enemy NPCs that follow the various in-game class archetypes that are extremely challenging, because not only do they have that class's same skill set, but they have unique AIs, so they feel just like you're fighting another player in PvP, even though it is just an NPC. But while I was leveling through the campaign, I fought several of these, including a mercenary that hurled tons of grenades my way and was pretty challenging, and then a very unpredictable fight against a warrior exile that nearly killed me with his powerful and unpredictable rolling slam attacks. So these fights are also really fun to experience, and I got tons of loot for defeating them, so they're very rewarding as well. Of course, in true Path of Exile fashion, you can also expect tons of new gear drops in Dawn of the Hunt, specifically new unique items in which there are also 100 new options to find, and chances have even been increased to find these items for mid and end game players to make more unique builds possible even for high level characters. Some of my favorites include the coming Calamity armor set, which increases your elemental resistances by a ton, but also automatically gives you access to all 3 elemental herald skills without costing any spirit. It's extremely powerful. That's going to proc bonus fire, ice, and shock damage all at the same time, while also lowering surrounding enemy elemental resistances. That's pretty incredible. Then there's Chirbog's Pillar, a unique tower shield which grants you bonus fire damage based on your block chance, so that's a pretty interesting unique as well. And these are just a few examples with, like I said, over 100 new additions. So there's bound to be something here that's going to be perfect for your build. But as you can see, Path of Exile 2 is not only continuing to improve their gameplay experience in early access, but they're also adding a ton of new content. So there's always a great reason to play, whether you're brand new or you're a returning player. And to get started, just use my link in the description or the pinned comment below to join Path of Exile 2's early access for $30, which also includes 300 points players can use to spend on in-game cosmetics, stash tabs, and much more. And don't forget, the Dawn of the Hunt update is now available on Steam, Epic Game Store, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Thanks again to Path of Exile 2 for sponsoring this video. Thanks to you for watching, and as always, I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.